My assignment will be on the history of arcade machines and what they brought to the game industry this day. Because it's factual information, and I also personally very believe that without arcade machines and without the arcade industry and developers and companies actually putting money and investment and time into the arcade industry, we would not have the modern day gaming industry that we have today with the Xbox, PS4s, the Destiny, Fallout. Without all that, I believe we would not have. Without the arcade machines, we would not have the game market as it is, and as is a conglomerate giant as it is today. The beginning of the game history begins, in my opinion, with the game Pong. It was the first ever commercially available platform to the public, as arcade machines could be accessed at any time at a small cost of from anywhere from 10p to 50p. And it was not you did not require to buy your own console, to buy a separate game, to buy add-ons for it. It was an arcade, or even most fast food restaurants at the time owned Pong. Because the fact about it, Pong actually brought more business than actually the restaurant itself. Because Pong was such a hit during the time that everyone just flocked to the game and thought it was amazing. And because at the time, before Pong, there's been nothing like that. The first game machine was developed by the MIT, and it was literally a blip on the screen, and it cost around £1,000, and in today's inflation about 10 grand to own. So it was not available commercially. But Pong, created by Atari company, was one of the first commercially available game arcade machines out there, and it was introduced to all arcades, and it was introduced to many restaurants as I said before. Because the game was so popular, there used to be lines around the corner to play the game. The founders of our industry, Atari, released the game Pong in 1971. Pong was just a game where a virtual game of tennis, where two players would play two white lines going up and down the screen to bounce a ball back and forth. And as in tennis, the first ball to score in their court would gain a point. This was a huge advancement in 1971. Because before Pong, there was no other games, but the technology within Pong was massive, as they had to use such large technology to actually run the game. Because at the time there were no microchips, no microprocessors. Most things are only available to military or government personnel. So to actually create this commercially available machine was actually amazing, as it took so much effort and so much time just to think what to put in it and how to do it. So the Atari creators, in my opinion, are geniuses. Pong used a basic two-dimensional graphics. Two players were a virtual game, and that's it. Two players would stand next to each other, turn a little twisty dial, and the bats would move up and down the screen to bounce the ball back and forth. But Pong is only the first game. There are many more games to come during this the gaming industry burst. After Pong, other companies realised the potential in this market, and companies decided, even though it's a new and upcoming market, they saw how players, adults, children, everyone at any age just flocked to the screen just to pay 50p to have just have a minute of fun, but it was worth it to them. So the history begins with Pong, but many more arcade machines did come, because in 1978, Taito released the game Space Invaders. Space Invaders was a game where you played a missile defense against aliens, and you shoot little aliens out of the sky. The game was so basic, as the alien just moved back and forth on the screen. It was nothing more than that. That's what, at the time, that was just a big hit. After Space Invaders came Asteroids in 1979, where you played a spaceship shoot meteorites. Even this game was basic, as in the time technology didn't advance much in 4 years since Pong. So all it was white lines shooting meteorites. After Asteroids came Galacticon in 1979 with Namco, then Berserk in 1980, Defender 1980 once again, as the game market at this time was booming every single day. More and more players came, and companies realised this investment and realised it was a booming market. So each year more games released, because at Pong was there at the start, but Atari still wanted to control the market, so they released very popular games such as Missile Command and Centipede. But the most iconic two games, I believe, was once again released by the company Namco, what is still big to this day. Namco released Pac-Man in 1980, and saying the name Pac-Man is instantly recognisable with that little yellow man bouncing across the screen, eating pellets, being chased by 4 ghosts. It was amazing at the time, using 2-dimensional colours, and the advancements were so great. Pac-Man to this day is still a notable game. And then Nintendo, a Japanese company, originally invested in was originally a playing card company, actually decided that this market would be great in Japan, as after the war, a lot of Japanese people decided to adapt to Western cultures. So they believed that releasing a game called Donkey Kong, and it was true, Donkey Kong was a commercial hit across Japan, America, everywhere. It spread like wildfire. Everyone loved Donkey Kong, and that's about it. After Donkey Kong, now I'm going to do the limitations and features of an arcade machine. The features of an arcade machine is that it was coin operated. It had the buttons and joystick controls. It offered co-op support, so 2 players at a time could play the game together. And it was an advancement since in the 70s. It was nothing like it before that. And it offered a range of different games, from shooting games to you could be a spaceman for all you want. Limitations, games in modern day. We have modern games such as Guitar Hero, racing games, bike games. Modern day games offer no online support. They're very large and hardware dependent compared to modern day consoles like PS4, where it's just a little console with a GPU and that. But a arcade machine still requires a large amount, like the components need to be large inside it, which is a large expense. So to own an arcade, you would have to invest a great amount of money. It was one game per machine. So with one game per machine, you can't have one game in an arcade. So you would have to invest into multiple arcade machines. But nowadays they do offer some arcade machines were built in multiple games. But back in the 1970s and from 1999, for all the Wizards games, it was still one game per machine. And arcades are rarely used anymore. Today, they have become so irrelevant. As the last time people have just flocked to the Xbox now. You can provide home entertainment in your house. Xbox and PS4s are now taking over an arcade machine. An arcade machine is rarely used now. And this is the arcade. Now to the history of the actual gaming consoles. Gaming consoles, everyone knows one now. The gaming consoles have become so expansive, and the cost of it is so cheap that you can buy one for nearly 80 quid now, and an Xbox 360 you can go for 80 quid. That's why you will find now the modern day game machine in every household across the UK, probably across the world. And as consoles now offer online support, you can instantly connect and play games with someone from China, someone from America. This is what a game machine offers to the world. A game machine is probably the greatest advancement, apart from the arcade machine, what actually started the game industry. But a game console was probably the greatest advancement in the game industry, because not only did a game console allow you to play games in your home, you didn't have to travel to an arcade or pay, even to own your arcade machine. You didn't have to pay, like, say, back then plus inflation, about £5,000. Game machines actually allow people to play in their own house with parents, families, as a pastime. This was a great advancement. The history of the game machine begins with the first ever home console, and this was the Magnavox Odyssey. Back then, it costs around £3,000. Depends where you bought it from back then, but I wasn't alive. I wasn't alive in 1972. It was released 1 year after the first arcade machine, because the company, Magnavox, realised that the arcade was a massive hit. The Pong arcade game was a massive hit, but the hardware was massive. Like to actually build and run an arcade machine, you need massive components. So Magnavox realised that people were flocking to this, but had to go out their homes and had to go out in public and actually travel to arcade machines somewhere else. And they realised that what if they brought the machines to the house? So this brought in the Magnavox Odyssey, which in its lifetime sold 330,000 units. The first game to release with the Magnavox Odyssey was Pong, because Pong was, of course, from Atari, and they realised that if they thought they could make a twist on it, as Magnavox offered little displays you could put on your screen that like could make it look like hockey, make it look like basketball, but it's still a little white ball, but with a little display on your screen. After the Magnavox, in 1977, Atari released their first video game console called the Atari 2600. Once again, the Atari 2600 was a machine that brought an amazing amount of games and once again boosted the game industry and let people play whatever they wanted. Such games as Chuck E. Cheese, Space Invaders, or back then Space Wars, as some called some countries, could be played on the Atari 600. After Atari 600, well, a couple of years on, as more and more video games were released, once again Nintendo, the company I talked about before, decided to put their foot in the market and released the Call TV game, which once again offered Pong. So because Nintendo realised that Pong was a global hit, and they thought they released it on their own Nintendo game. But Nintendo to this day is one of the biggest industries in gaming, and started off as one of the smallest ones, because Nintendo, after making commercial success on their own game machine, released the Namco. The Namco was a home family game machine that provided two-dimensional graphics, and you could play from games such as Mario. Well, the back then was called Donkey Kong, but you could play Donkey Kong, Galaga, Cubert, different Mario games really. But after Nintendo made so much money off the Famicom, they realised that they could bring it to the States, and in the States they released the Nintendo Home Entertainment System, or the NES. And once again, the NES was just the Famicom, but with the US sprinkle of touch on it. And once again, you could play Mario on it, you could play Space Invaders on it, you could play anything on it. It was a pricey box, but it was a good price to play home games in your own house. To this day, more and more advancements came as Nintendo released more consoles. They released the N64, they released the Game Boy, they released the they released the Wii, they released a Wii U now, and as we come to the modern world, but one of the greatest companies to actually influence the industry was Sony, as originally Sony were paired with Nintendo, and the PlayStation was originally meant to be an attachment to Nintendo 64, but as the two companies broke off, Sony released in 1994 its first game console, the PS1. The PS1 was an instant hit, as it brought three-dimensional graphics. You could play Killer Instinct, Ultra Fighter, Earthworm Jim. These games were a massive advancement on the PS4. And PS1. The PS1, after time, advanced to the PS2, where you released San Andreas, and then the graphics got better as hardware became more advanced, graphics got better. PS3, and now in the 8th generation of consoles, we have the PS4 Xbox One, which now utilises 1080p graphics, 60 FPS frame rate. As back in 1970, the NASA's first ever launch to the moon required less technology than X1 has in it today. This is the history of the of the consoles. The features and limitations of the console is that a feature of it is that it could be played in a house. It could play in your own house. You could bring it home and actually not require money to play it. You also got joypads with it. Joypads, which you can play games. It offered comfortable support. It was just a really good idea, joypads, because originally we had the game stick joypad, which it was just a stick, but it was really limited on what you could do with it. You could literally move and shoot. But joypads offer full movement, shooting, reloading, everything. Games also a feature of the console. Games could be released with the console. You could buy games such as Red Dead, GTA, and you could play at home, but games do cost a large amount of money. Limitations of the console is it requires a constant power support. You need power. It's not handheld. You need a power support to play. It does cost a lot of money. It is around 400 quid when it first came out, and games are around 60 quid each. So it is a massive investment. And overall, it's just a great advancement in the game industry. And today, over 4 billion people play video games. That is because it became such a big industry, and now it has influenced the world to play it. Thank you.